our boneless pork shoulder here. I use the boneless. You can use bone-in if you want, but this is the one that's on sale. So that's what I use. All right. So real quickly, what we're gonna do is we're gonna season all sides. Just very simple. Salt, pepper, and granulated garlic. Make sure to season pretty well because when you roast this, it's kind of a roast slash braise, some of the seasoning will come off. So season all 4 sides. Season pretty well. And then we're gonna put a little bit of flour. This is gonna give it a nice crust. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna cook it in the Instant Pot. We're gonna brown it in there, cook it in there, and then we're gonna finish it in the oven after. That'll give it a nice, that caramelized color. Okay, so now that I have the Instant Pot on saute and it's been hot, I'm gonna add some oil in there. It looks like a lot, but don't worry, we're gonna take some out of there after and it'll absorb in the meat as well. Bit of nice crust, so we're gonna start this, we're gonna brown this on all 4 sides. So we'll let this brown and we'll come back. Okay, so we browned it on all 4 sides. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be, just get a nice crust because with the braising it's gonna go away a little bit, but we're gonna finish this in the oven after. So we'll get a nice crust after that as well. Okay, so you see all 4 sides. So this one's really easy, okay? What we're gonna do is we're gonna add about a tablespoon of soy sauce. We're gonna add about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. We're gonna add maybe four bay leaves. We're gonna add a tablespoon of dried onion. I just like the flavor of the dried onion. And I'm gonna add 1.5 cups of water. That's so it doesn't burn. So the pork doesn't burn, and also that's gonna serve as a gravy that we make for the dish as well. So we're gonna use the liquid that it cooks in for the gravy, all right? Okay, so we're gonna make a quick roux here. The roux is gonna be to thicken the gravy for the roast pork. So basically I have 1 stick of butter, so about a 1/2 cup of butter. And it's melted, I'm gonna add about a little bit under a 1/2 cup of flour. And if you've never made a roux before, you can use any, if you don't have butter, you can use oil. I like the flavor of butter, so I'm gonna use that for this dish. This is gonna help thicken our gravy. You can use a cornstarch slurry if you want, so cornstarch and water, but for this dish, I like the flavor of the roux and the addition of the roux. I feel like it gives a nicer gravy consistency, right? So we're looking for a little bit, almost like a wet sand consistency. And we're gonna cook this just for about 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes, and you can really tell, you can see the little brown, and you can really smell it. It has like a real nutty flavor. It smells delicious. So again, that's just even parts butter and flour. So about 5 minutes on low heat, and that's what we're gonna use it to thicken the gravy. Okay, so here we go. It's been 50 minutes. Let's check it out. 15 minutes on high pressure. So what we're looking for, something is really tender. And that's what the roast pork in Hawaii is all about, is about being tender on the inside. So we're gonna check that with the thermometer. Poke it right inside. Ooh, there's a little resistance. I'm gonna go a little bit longer on that. Okay, so I had to add on 10 more minutes. I just need a little while more. So this is an hour total at high pressure. So let's check it out now. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, we don't want it to fall apart to the point where it'll just absolutely crumble. Or shred, I should probably say, it's probably a better word. So we're gonna take this out. Oh, like I'm doing right now, I'm butchering this thing right now. I'm just doing this thing. Okay, so I'll pull that out. Nice and soft. All right, so that's what we're looking for. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna cool this overnight. The thing I like about this dish is I can do it the day ahead. So if you want, you can throw this into the oven. I'm gonna show you how to do that, but you can eat it that day. But I prep this normally on the weekend, and then during the week I just throw it in the oven, and I'll show you that a little bit later on. Okay, so we have all that beautiful liquid in there. That's from all the seasoning, the drippings, and also we added the Worcestershire and the shoyu. So we're gonna taste this, all right? And we're gonna make a quick gravy with this. So I turned on the Instant Pot to saute. Actually, it's pretty good in salt. So actually, I'm gonna. Okay, so with the braising liquid there, I'm gonna add about a half a cup of water. I taste it, it just needs a little bit of salt. I mean, a little bit of water. It's a little bit too salty. So I'm gonna bring this to a boil real quick. And then we're gonna add that roux in here. We're gonna thicken it up. Okay, so now that it's come to a boil, we're gonna just slowly add some of that roux that we made earlier, and that's gonna help us thicken it. We're gonna season it one more time at the end. So I'm gonna add a little bit of roux, basically to whatever consistency you want. That's a roux. We made half cup of butter, half cup of flour. But if you want it a little bit more brothy, just don't add as much roux. If you want it thicker gravy, obviously just add more roux. Right? So we're gonna add that. Ooh, it smells good. So we're gonna whisk that in. We're gonna touch that up with just 2 more things real quick. A couple drops of Tabasco. Everybody in Hawaii loves Tabasco. And just for color's sake, I'm gonna add a little bit of kitchen bouquet. It's probably like a half a teaspoon. Let's see. If you don't have either of those, don't worry about it. But the Tabasco adds a nice flavor. It's not necessarily for the heat. It's just for the flavor of that Tabasco. Yeah. Oh, that looks pretty good. Let's see that consistency. How does that look? That's pretty good. I don't like mine too thick. And it'll thicken up overnight. So the good thing about this too is there was some fat. So when I cool it overnight in the refrigerator, tomorrow I can just take off the fat. It'll be easy to take off. But if you're gonna eat it right away, then don't even worry about it. Oh, the great thing is that it's ready to go for a week. Okay, so here's our roast pork. We had it in the refrigerator overnight. It's all ready to go. I'm gonna put this in the oven. One thing I'm gonna do, you can skip this step if you want. You can just use regular oil, but I'm actually gonna use, I know, kind of gross, but I'm gonna use the fat from on top of the gravy. It's basically the fat from the pork, from the Instant Pot, right? So I'm gonna put that on, I'm gonna baste that out. I know that's kind of gross, but it tastes good. Most of it's gonna fall off anyway, but it'll help keep it moist and it help give that nice crust that you normally get from roast pork when you have in the oven for a long time, you know, hour and a half or whatever it takes depending on the piece. But I'm gonna smear that on. That's gonna give it a nice coating. It's gonna give a nice flavor. Remember, it's cooked, it's soft on the inside. So right now we're just getting it to have that nice little crust and those, you know, those crunchy pieces, crunchy salty pieces, right? Okay, so we're just gonna, that way we kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Take off the fat from the gravy, but we're also basically basting the pork, the roast pork, right? Okay, so here's our pork. It's been about 30 minutes. I'm actually gonna check it. I think it's probably good at this point. Ooh, so you see with that, the fat that we put on there? It's a nice crust. All right, so we're gonna let that rest. We're gonna let that rest for a good 15-20 minutes, and then we're gonna carve it. Ooh, so that's our roast pork. Okay, so basically we're gonna take our gravy that we made yesterday with the drippings and the braising liquid from the pork. Remember, we thickened it with the roux yesterday, so we're gonna just take some out and we're gonna whisk it up, warm it up, and see what it tastes like. It should taste pretty good. I don't think we have to adjust the seasoning too much. Let's see how it tastes. Basically, I didn't do anything to it. I just warmed it up on the stove. It's a little bit thicker than I probably would like it. I'm just gonna add just a touch of water. If you like it thicker on this thicker side, you're gonna eat with mashed potatoes or something like that. Leave it thicker. That's up to you. It's really personal preference on that. If you want it thicker, a little bit more on the thin side. So we're gonna whisk that around real quick. As you can see with the roux, it's a nice consistency. Yeah. We're gonna taste this real quick. Oh, that's pretty much right on. I'm not even gonna adjust really any seasoning. Okay, so here's our pork. It's been about 30 minutes. I'm actually gonna check it. I think it's probably good at this point. Ooh, so you see with that, the fat that we put on there? It's a nice crust. All right, so we're gonna let that rest. We're gonna let that rest for a good 15-20 minutes, and then we're gonna carve it. Ooh, so that's our roast pork. Okay, so here we have our roast pork. It's been resting for about 20 minutes or so, but we're gonna cut into it and see how it looks on the inside. So you see the nice crust that was from throwing in the roasting in the oven at 375, right? So we're gonna go ahead and cut. Oh, you can hear it. Oh, so if you can see the juices in there too, yeah. Oh, that's what I like to see, yeah. That's the best thing about boneless pork shoulder too. There's fat, flavor, cooked at the right temperature.